going through it for resumes. And it's like, I don't like, I mean, I know how to handle it because of like military
Sure.
stuff. But other times it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just bringing that up because I think it's interesting.
It's different. Come on in, please. There is a sign-in sheet there. Just sign in, grab a seat wherever you can to get the view. We'll get started here in just a few seconds.
Of course, in the military, in their experience, they usually work with the U.S. military.
Right.
And I say, keep it on, because you're part of the military that the United States. Usually, I don't think men usually like being too. That's why my husband got it, because they were sent to Korea and work on jet engines. And he did not want to work on good things. Okay, folks, I'm gonna let y'all kind of settle down here. But as you kind of, get your pizza and settle in, I want to introduce myself. My name is Anna Swenson. I work for the Center for Career Opportunities. And I like working specifically with the Veteran Military Success Center because it's a little bit personal. My husband was in the military for 6-ish years. So I kind of know things and I kind of don't know some things. He was in the Air Force. He worked on jet engines. Don't ask me anymore about what he did because I don't know. But because of that, I kind of know that when you are approaching the civilian world, especially if you're approaching the civilian where you're looking for like jobs or entering college, it's a lot different than the military. Things are operated a lot differently. I remember when he was getting out, for example, they had a resume workshop for him from people who had not had to have a resume probably for their entire lives. So it's a little bit different, but I'm here to help and I'm here to understand. So before we get started, how many of you have actually been to a career fair before? Okay. How many of you in here would have said you had a good time at the career fair or a successful outcome? Okay, Brian, show off. So here, I just wanted to kind of go over how you can make the most of the career fair or what you should be preparing to have a more successful time at the career fair. I will say too, that a lot of folks, when they're going to the career fair, they kind of think internship, job, that's what I'm looking for. But that's not the only way to get into it. So let's get started with what are some benefits to attending a career fair? And you can kind of share out a little bit if you'd like. Amazon, anytime you want to talk and share, please do so.
Building your network.
Building your network. Okay, good. I like that. Building your network. What else?
Lots of practice in a short amount of time.
Good. Lots of practice in a short amount of time. What else?
Get intel.
Yeah, get intel. Yes. Anybody else? Well, don't be shy. We're all friends here.
One would hope that you're connecting with recruiters from different companies.
Yes. Connecting with recruiters from different companies. So here are some of the benefits to going that we might have listed in the room already. But for the actual career part, you get to meet employers face to face. You get to seek employment opportunity, internships, co-ops, full-time jobs. I'll say this part, the actually being able to meet recruiters face to face is like an ever-growing important thing in today's world where everybody is like sending in tons and tons of applications and not hearing anything back. And part of that's because you're sending it over the technology. You're representing your whole life and your whole self on a piece of paper. And guess what? It's a whole lot easier to say no to a piece of paper than a human being in front of you. Would you find that to be kind of the case?
Absolutely.
Okay, yes, agree with me. Okay, other thing you can do is you're trying to learn too. Explore careers, you're exploring opportunities, and you're building your network. Who in here like knows exactly what they want to do when they graduate? Okay, you do. Okay. But is anybody else? No, right? There are so many opportunities out there and so many different experiences that you could be getting that you don't even know the names of. Exploring the opportunities at the career fair can kind of start giving you those names and those ideas. So those are some benefits of doing. So in today's interview, not today's interview, I've been thinking about interviews lately. In today's presentation, we're going to be talking about knowing before you're going, during and after the career fair, and if the career fair goes really well, interview. The first thing first is know before you go. I'm going to talk about just kind of a career fair overview, how my CCO, how many of you have heard of my CCO? Okay, like about a pretty good number. Okay, for others who don't worry, we're going to go into it today. Dressing for success at the career fair, and we also want to talk about the elevator pitch. The first things first, the career fair is not the only place where you can meet employers. That's a pretty big place that you can meet employers, but it's not the only place. So a good example might be at an opportunity like tonight. Does anybody know how you can meet employers tonight?
Talk to them.
Yeah, talk to them. They're right here. And I want to emphasize that to you too. Though these career fairs are huge. Sometimes they're really hot, like IR. Like it's fall. It feels like fall right now. No, the weather knows that we're having IR in a couple of weeks. It's gonna rack up. So that's one thing to keep in mind. They're huge. They're impersonal. It's a good way to kind of meet folks, but it's not the only way to meet folks. The Veteran and Military Success Center, for example, is one place that hosts a lot of employers through events like this. There's maybe something important coming up, what to do with career fairs in the Veteran and Military Success Center. Does anybody know what that is? It's a career fair hosted by the Veteran and Military Success Center. It's September 8th, right?
Correct.
At 5:30. Now that is an excellent place to meet employers because they are coming specifically for you guys. They specifically want veterans and military connected people. That is probably going all the other career fairs, great, go to them. But if you're gonna just go to one, go to that one. These are also other places where you can meet employers, and I want you to keep a lookout for it as you're kind of going through classes, alumni chats, networking nights, employer information session, company hosted events, employers coming to classes or student organizations. I will say company hosted events, right before IR and everything, a lot of companies are coming to campus. One is coming on the 28th. Does anybody know who's coming the 28th? Yeah, Eli Lee, Gold Star. Thank you.
And they're doing 4 events with us tomorrow.
And they're doing 4 events with Veteran Military Success. So you go to those events. Don't go to the outside lawn. Go to the Veteran Military Success Center. It's what Eli Lee. So, for those of you who are not familiar with career fairs or maybe haven't been to one for a while, I just want to give a brief overview. This is what a career fair looks like. This is what it can. This is what it can look like if you're gonna brave IR. Good luck, more power to you. This is IR too. So this is also one reason I say go to the more intimate settings where you're not gonna be one little fish in a bowl of thousands. So we're gonna talk about My CCO. My CCO, for those of you who don't know, is our online job and internship portal for us here at Purdue University. And so My CCO has a lot of great opportunities. One, jobs and internships, sure, but you can also look at job fairs that are coming. You can log in with your Purdue credentials at cco.purdue.edu. Don't worry, we'll have a QR code later because everybody loves QR codes. So on here, you can upload your profile and everything, but I also want you to be able to upload your resume. That's going to be very important because employers can find you on here with your resume. Another reason that you want to do that? Yes.
So what resume do I put on there? I'm supposed to tailor a resume for each of the individual employers. That's a resume that's going to all the employers. What should that one kind of look like?
I'd say that one should probably be, if you have a kind of an idea of the sorts of positions that you're looking for, they're going to be a little bit more similar to one another. So that one can be a little bit more focused, but general for your direction. But the thing about this too is you can actually upload multiple resumes to this platform as well. Just to let you guys know too. And you can even label them and know exactly what they are. So don't make everything My Resume 2025. You want to kind of differentiate it. And one reason you want to do that is because You can also click that you are attending the career fair under the events tab and go to the specific career fair and click attend. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, because I can be with you guys. You click this attend button, you don't have your resume uploaded, it's not doing anything for you. You have your resume uploaded, you click attend, you can choose to have your resume uploaded for employers going to this career fair. So that's why you want it uploaded. So that's my CCO. And one reason that you want to use my CCO, and I will say, like right here in this employers tab, you can see everybody who's coming. The reason we want to do that is because you want to research the companies before you go. You want to maybe find out like any important or interesting projects that they're doing, job postings that they have, mission statements, history, philosophy are good, key events and people from those companies, news publications, follow their LinkedIn account, and connect with their current employers on LinkedIn. So yes.
Can I say something about it?
Of course.
So again, we're from Amazon and I can't tell you how many people walk up to our booth and say, what jobs does Amazon have? And I'm just gonna not lie. I like say, step to the side and I'm gonna talk to the next person because we usually have a big line. And I'm just not saying that for any other reason then it's a fact. And the people who've done this research and walk up to that booth and say, I've been on your job board. Here are the jobs I'm a great fit for. That's a conversation starter. The recruiter will move heaven and earth to try to help you at that point. But if you just say, what jobs do you have? They don't have time to say we're a 1.5 million person company. There's thousands of jobs. You know what I mean? It's a conversation killer. So I can't express enough how important this is to have a meaningful conversation when you walk up to the booth because.
Or walk up to the table and say, what does your company do?
Yeah, don't
Because
do
if,
that.
I mean, Amazon, everybody kind of knows because they interact with it, but there's lots of companies out there that we've never even heard of that have fantastic jobs. And if you walk up to the table and say, what does your company do? Thanks, but no thanks. They're not interested. If you haven't even bothered to look up to see who we are, what we do, then we don't have time to sit and explain all that to you. So that's on that same vein, but even a step further of not even understanding who that company is and what function they provide for the world.
And one thing I see a lot in one-on-one appointments with students who are like, I don't have success at career fairs. One of the number one things I hear from them or I kind of suss out is that they don't do any research before they go to career fair. They just pop on a suit. Don't be that person. Other things to kind of set your apart in that same vein is, and also in one-on-one appointments, a lot of people say, I go to these career fairs and I talk to these employers and these employers say, apply online. Well, maybe if you do that before the career fair, then employers will say, apply online. You can say, I already did, and I applied to this position, and these are the questions that I have. That's going to have a more meaningful conversation than what we've already discussed of what do we do? What kind of jobs do you have? Come with questions about positions of interest. And also this part, I can't stress out enough. Keep notes about the company, like literally get yourself a notebook that is just for the job search. And on one page, write that company's name on top. As you're researching it, write down questions or things of interest and take that with you so that when you actually go to that career fair and talk to that employer of interest, you can then write down the information that you kind of learned. And not only that, you can write down what you talked about, but also the recruiter's name. Like that's very important too, because you're going to use that information later. So another aspect of this is what to wear at the career fair. I will say that I've heard feedback from employers that Purdue is pretty good about like having nice professional clothing when it comes to the career fair. So like, good job on us. But also let's reiterate that. We want nice solid colors. It needs to be neat, clean pressed. If you're like, I don't have that neat, clean pressed shirt, go to JCPenney or go to Goodwill, find it there, wash it, press it, and then wear it. Don't be like taking out pins before you go to the career fair like that day. If you already have something, make sure it fits. They talk about the freshman 15. That's like a real thing. If you're gonna wear like a dress or a skirt, make sure that it's longer than your fingertips. Jackets and pants should be the same color. Shoes should be unobtrusive. Socks should match your shoes. Usually what I kind of think is like church wear, kind of. Or if you don't really go to church, if your grandma's hosting like a nice dinner, like don't show up in something that your grandma would roll her eyes at.
Pajama bottoms are a no. I've seen it
With the Crocs.
with slippers.
We're not going to Walmart, people. We're going to the career fair. Another thing, if you're like, oh geez, I do not have the nice wear to wear. That's fine. If you do not have something nice that you feel comfortable in and confident in, I will say that we partner with JCPenney for the suit up event, 30% off on professional wear, and they've also expanded it to scrubs and workwear this year. I'm not really sure what workwear really entails, but I did follow the link and it has like agency stuff on there. And I will say that these QR codes and these links are based on phone numbers. So if you have like multiple phone numbers, like friends and family, and you use it, you can get multiple 30% off. But you did not hear that from me. And I definitely did not do that. Okay, so use that. Other things that we have for you. We have the career closet that is for students who are in need. And we really emphasize that part of like in need, as in you don't have access to either the resources or the funds to get those clothes. And we want to really emphasize that because it's all donation based. We don't have everything in every size. And once it's gone, it's gone. But this is also the same too. If you have that suit that no longer fits or that thing's just not your style anymore, donate it to us. We're always accepting it and we're always very happy. And if you like to do this, you can make an appointment through Boiler Connect. So that's our career closet. Oh, no, that's too fast. And if you're also like sitting here like, Anna, I don't really know what professional wear means. We have a Pinterest page that kind of shows what that means. So I sometimes use this if I have like a nice dress or something that I'm like, I'm not sure if this is work appropriate. I use it sometimes too. So there you go. Another thing that you want to kind of consider is your elevator pitch, because that's another thing, like knowing what questions you have about positions for the employers is good, but you also need to know how to market yourself. What sets you apart? What makes you interesting to that employer? So some things to consider is highlighting your strengths and skills in an effective, concise manner. It's about sharing who you are, what you're seeking, what you're looking for, and how you're capable of performing within that company. And one great thing about the elevator pitch is that you can make it for multiple different opportunities. So your elevator pitch for a career fair might look a little bit different than your elevator pitch when you're like meeting your mom's best friend who works for Amazon and you want to work for Amazon. There are multiple ways and multiple different ways that you can do an elevator pitch or kind of structure it. One way is just introducing yourself. Like I might say, hello, my name is Anna Swinson. I work with the Center for Career Opportunities. My education was, I studied at Butler University in English professional writing. Or if you don't want to like talk about your major, or if you notice when you're giving your elevator pitch that people kind of like shut off at a certain point when you talk about your major, instead of highlighting that, highlight your research or where you're interning. Or you can even talk about your past and your military experience. That's always interesting. And then you always want to end off with some sort of ask, like advice sharing, information, a connection request, because that last like question piece is going to keep that ball rolling and keep that conversation going. So, what are some information you might include in your elevator pitch? Yes.
Why you might be interested in that, talking to that particular employer.
Yes, good. What else?
When you graduate.
When you graduate, good. Why would they be curious about when you graduate?
I mean, one of the reasons we're here is a lot of our roles are for either internships, so we need to know when you graduate, or new college grads, and the basic qualifications literally say you have to be conferring between this date and this. And so that tells us the direction to take the conversation.
Thank you. You're gonna say
It's related to the job fair.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be done in December.
yes.
Is this job fair, like you're saying that it says when you confer as on
For
that?
the role, there you go. We have those roles and we have other roles, but yes.
So basically you have to find a role that fits into when you're
Well, yeah, so we have campus intern, campus FTE, but then we have apprenticeship as well. So there's lots of opportunities, but I guess for this audience, my theory was your students, so when you're gonna graduate is important. It just depends. If you're looking for a new college grad role, that's important. If you're looking to more like step straight into an industry role or an apprenticeship, it's more about your skills.
Yeah.
What if you're not entirely sure when you're gonna graduate? Like, just like, okay, here's where I am right now, so I'm expected to graduate this year. But life has taught you like, hey, occasionally you might have to retake a class or, a pandemic hits or whatever. Just, life has basically made me think like, I never plan more than one semester ahead.
So you want to just kind of give that expected graduation date, pretty much. And if that changes, your elevator pitch can change. And your elevator pitch should change as you do. Thank you guys. So during and after the career fair. So first things first is your first 30 seconds. The very first interview you have, not to put pressure on you guys, but the very first interview that you have is when you first meet that employer. I'm saying that because Amazon's really here. So this is your first interview. Hi. But because that first interview is when you first meet that employer, you've got only a short amount of time to make a good impression. So you only have about 30 seconds to make a good first impression. But how do I make a good first impression in 30 seconds? I'm glad you asked. So you want to make sure that you have, that nice suit or professional attire, that it's wrinkle free, that it's appropriate for the occasion. Please avoid strong fragrances and excessive accessories. Like if you have like your dangly earrings, probably leave them at home. That's okay because I'm not there. Okay. Ensure grooming and cleanliness and preparation for professional engagement. So like if you've got, I don't know, like a mile run at 9 and the career fair at 10, go home and shower first and then go to the career fair. Prepare and practice your elevator pitch as much as you can. You can do that with friends, family, going to other career fairs and practicing it. That's good too. You also want to make sure that you're maintaining eye contact with employers and speaking confidently and clearly. So that's a big thing too. Other things that you can kind of bring to the career fair or consider bringing are like a portfolio, just something to kind of carry your resume or your notebook in. You can also have a professional bag or satchel. Some career fairs I know have like a waiting area where you can put your backpack in for it and then go into the career fair. So just keep that in mind. Yes.
For our students, if you're getting ready to go out to the big career fair and you want, bring your bags to the VMSC. We'll store your bags in the VMSC. That way you don't have to tow them around with you out there. Okay, so I mean, it's going to be held in the Memorial Mall. It's just on the other side of Stewart and Elliott, or not Elliott, but the I'm talking about the other side of Stewart. But so you can come by, drop your bags off with us. Nobody's gonna take your stuff. You can go walk around the career fair and not have to worry about having a bag to tow, plus wrinkling up your clothes. And you can come back and grab your bag when you're done.
And it's probably safer there than other places that you stash it. You can have a name tag. Some of these career fairs actually print name tags for you. When you get that name tag, put it on this side. It's your right side. I'm not very good with directions. You put it on your right side because when you're shaking hands, the eyesight is going to look up your arm and to your name tag. You want to also bring multiple printed copies of your resume. I cannot stress this enough because you want to be able to give copies of your resume. God bless my husband. I love him so much. I encouraged him to go to a career fair and he did. He was like, print out your resume. And he's like, okay. And he came back and I was like, so how did it go? And he's like, yeah, I had a really great conversation with some companies. Like, that's very good to hear. I was like, did you hand out your resume? And he said, no. And I said, why not? And he said, well, I only printed out the one. And it was folded up and put in his pocket. Don't do that. Keep your resumes nice, not hold up, put in your pocket.
You can also print for free in our office.
And I heard that they also have color printing too.
We do.
I learned that last night. So resumes, you can have business cards. There's also like a virtual business card that you can do. Remember your notebook with notes of companies of interest and that notebook or notepad to add just notes from conversations you have. And these are just, it's not an exhaustive list. And it's not, you have to have all these things. It's more of a suggestion. So one thing to kind of expect at the career fair is, especially if you're going to a big one like IR, which I will say, and let me repeat, IR is not the only career fair held on this campus. There are a lot of different career fairs, and sometimes IR is such like a big fish to handle, and you might not even go. But one way you can kind of figure out what to expect is we have something called Career Fair Plus. Yes, Career Fair Plus is like a thing that you can get on your phone. You can go through, find the employees that you're looking for, star them, and then they will star up on the map. And suddenly you have an easy way to find the folks that you are looking for. When you get to the career fair, make sure that you kind of just do a lap of it first, kind of get to know like what's going on, get comfortable, and then find your folks. You'll have used my CCO at this point, so you already know your companies of interest. And I also have the Google Play and the Apple QR code right there for y'all. So that's Career Fair Plus. Also, what to expect, remain professional when you're talking with your recruiters and also with peers. Like if you've got like a sort of nasty nickname for your friend and you see that friend at the career fair, that is not the time to use that nasty nickname for them, because recruiters are always seeing and they're listening, and they probably don't know or don't care that that's your friend. They just know that you're using a nasty language. Other things you can do is be willing to speak to companies that might not be on your list. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Anna, you just told me to research the companies before I talk to them. Guess what, guys? We all have miniature computers in our pockets, and we can research the companies before we go talk to them. Show your personality when you're talking to recruiters, and like your professional personalities. And always maintain eye contact, show enthusiasm for the company and for the position. So also, tip, arrive early. The earlier you arrive, the fresher you're gonna find the recruiters, the shorter the lines are probably going to be.
You won't get tired?
We get very tired. But I will say, my tip would be arrive early or at the end, because there's nobody at the end. And so we don't have a line. So, a lot of times at career fairs, there's this huge rush at the beginning and there's long lines and so I think one or the other is good, but we do get tired.
See, that's why you have employers come to these things, because that's something new I learned, and I'm gonna put that in my presentation, so thank you. And then you're kind of thinking, okay, what to say when you're face to face with the employer. Build your network. You might ask for business cards or LinkedIn connections. If they say that they don't have business cards, it might be because they don't want to make 50 new friends that day, but you can always get their name and find them on LinkedIn. Write notes about your conversation. I've said this like 3 or 4 times. I'm trying to say it's important. And consider asking a question to them. Here are some like just kind of surface level things that you can ask, like what qualifications are you looking for in a candidate? What is your application process? When should I begin applying in relation to my graduation date? Those are some just basic level things you can ask. And then you're kind of thinking, okay, what about the 24 hours after the career? Because those first 24 hours are also very important. So you want to reach out via email or through a LinkedIn connection to those folks that you've met. Remind them where they met you, who you are, where you met them at, because I'm going to be honest, for employers, Purdue University is not the first career fair and probably not the last career fair that they've been to that week. And you are not the first or last student that they've seen.
How many university events do you think you're gonna do in the months of September and October? Ballpark guess.
I mean, we do like 30 or 40 military events during month, so, and not just university specifically, but virtual and in person.
So tomorrow they're meeting all new people. They're trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do, and that are gonna take a new, fresh place in their mind, because that's just the way the world works. So this stuff's really, really important to continue those conversations and remind those folks about that amazing conversation you had, and that you were working on this connection, and then you were both very interested, you and their company, and them and you as a candidate. So
Yes. And so remind about the discussion, mention a specific job opening and why you would be an excellent candidate for it. You will also want to attach your cover letter and your resume. And if you are like, I don't know what a cover letter is, or I've not written one, please talk to me. I can help you with that, and I will help you with that. You also want to keep the follow-up short and concise. Folks don't have a lot of time, especially when they're recruiters and have bunches of emails. And be open to reaching back out to those folks in a couple months if you haven't heard back yet. Feel comfortable doing that. So you go to the career fair, you've prepped for it, you've done your research, you're like really excited, and the recruiters loved you. They might say, come in for an interview. They might sometimes do that like the day after the career fair, because we do have interview rooms at the CCO where they do that, especially like after IR, all the rooms are filled up because they're conducting interviews. But sometimes it might wait a little bit before they reach out and want to have an interview with you.
There'll be a bunch of companies that'll book space in this building. All these conference rooms, all these nooks, everywhere in this building's booked with employers who are putting their interview teams in these rooms. So the recruiters out there on the lawn are meeting you and saying, okay, let's get you booked for an appointment today at 1:20 and meet up in Gulf 037 of the Union to talk to the interview team, and you're in here having an interview that afternoon. So like there are companies that are that aggressive about pursuing candidates on campus that they set their interviewers up in here and they run interviews through those 3 days.
So you want to be prepared for the interviewing in case that happens to you. So first things first, I want to go over the STAR method. This is just a way to kind of answer interview questions. It's setting up basically a situation, a task, an action, or a result. So one good thing about this is that it keeps your answers full, but it keeps them concise. It also keeps them interesting too. Like, do you do a lot of interviews as well?
I used to be a hiring manager for all my career, so I've done a bunch of interviews.
So when you kind of think back on interviews that you've had and interviews that you remember, what was memorable about them?
Just good examples.
I remember,
You didn't want not to do.
I remember the awesome ones. I remember the terrible ones.
Yeah.
I can say
Different reasons.
Amazon, this is gospel at Amazon.
Yeah.
We do behavioral based interviewing and everybody has a sheet in front of them or the STAR method in their mind. And they're checking if you're clicking all these boxes. But the result, if you have to focus on anything, the result, we are a very data driven company. So you have to have the data driven. So I always tell people work backwards from the result. Because a lot of my military candidates get so lost in the explaining the situation because they don't think the person necessarily understands that they don't kind of get to the result. That's not the best choice, so.
How long should one of these questions take to answer?
10, 15.
It depends. So at least with us, they're looking for very specific data. If they don't get the information in your first pass, they will ask follow-up questions, and don't let that throw you because that just means, so we try to make our interview process good, casual and comfortable. I know it's hard because you're interviewing, but it's not supposed to be stump the chump. It's supposed to be, we want to get to know you. We want to see if you're a good fit for the team and for the role. And so if they don't get what they need in that first, assessment, they'll ask follow-up questions because they're trying to get the data. So don't think, oh man, I screwed up, I did something. Just answer the questions that they ask and follow up and don't let it throw you. And that's what they're trying to do, basically. So. And ours are all based on our leadership principles. There's 16 leadership principles at Amazon. Each interviewer is assigned a couple of those leadership principles, core competencies. And I always tell people have at least 10 solid examples in the STAR format that you can pull out of your pocket. Because they're very complementary, our leadership principles. So one might hit bias reaction and ownership. One might hit customer obsession and I'm just making stuff up, but have 10 solid questions because you're going to interview with multiple people and they're going to compare notes at the end. You said the same story to every single person and they do this, change the answer on one, like this is a success story with one interview and it's a failure at the other one. That's a red flag. They're comparing notes. And so it looks like you don't have the depth and breadth and it looks like you're not honest, honestly, because you changed the result.
And are those leadership principles for Amazon, are those available
You
online?
can just Google them, you'll find them all over everywhere. And military do very well with them because you'll see that they align really closely, at least I with the Army values, with the other branches of service. So military tend to really, be drawn to those leadership principles, but whether they mess up, it's not having that result, or, yes. Yeah, so.
And one thing that you might do in preparation for an interview, especially if you kind of know what the questions are or where you should be leading to them, is literally take time and kind of think about those stories or examples of your past experiences, and you might write them down and maybe try to cut them down a little bit and like practice saying them out loud. Just because you don't want to be sitting there and they ask you a question and you have the perfect example, but you don't know how to say it or you forget it in the moment. So
Get lost in the story.
get lost in the story in your situation and you don't even get to yours.
Oh, the other thing the military candidates struggle with is they say we too much.
Yes.
Because we're all trained to say the team
did
and
this.
we and blah, 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 blah. They need to know what you individually contributed. And your buddy's not in the room in the interview. Just saying, you know, I did this, you know, your buddy's not sitting next to you going, well, wait, you know, so. Really pull out what you individually did and what the result was. It's
Thank you for your insight. So here are some common interview questions that you might get. One is, tell me about yourself. Describe your greatest weakness. Do you have any questions for me? Here are some ways that you might answer some of these. Okay, and I brought these out because typically these are the ones that are a little bit harder to answer. So tell me about yourself. This is a great time to put your elevator pitch. Short, sweet, concise elevator pitch. Describe your greatest weakness. I encourage you to be honest about your greatest weakness, but aware. So one thing that I've heard from companies is that they kind of get tired of people saying, oh, my greatest weakness is that I just work too hard. I'm just such a great worker. They, you know, don't be putting your greatest weakness as something that is actually a strength. That's tired. Leave that out. But I also want to say, be aware of what great weakness that you share. Because, for example, if you have a job where you're going to be primarily working with kids and your greatest weakness is that you hate kids, don't tell them that. Find another weakness to talk about. And also reevaluate if that is a good position for you.
Greatest weakness is donuts.
Can I say something about this?
Yes, of course.
So one thing we almost always ask that throws the candidates off is, tell me about a time you failed, or what would you have done differently? And if you say nothing, that's a huge red flag, because at Amazon, the expectation is you fail fast and learn and move forward and share what you learned through your failure and keep moving. So almost every question I ask is the follow-up is, what did you learn? Who did you share that with? You know, and so if you can't say an answer to that, it's not great. So instead of your greatest weakness, we'll phrase it as, tell me about time you failed to deliver. We all fail, right? It's a part of life. So just own it and talk about what you learned.
And that learning part, that is also your result part that we've already talked about is very important. And then, do you have any questions for me? This is where your research is going to be helpful. This is the time to like ask genuine questions that you have about that company or what it'd be like working for them. Because one thing you have to keep in mind too, when you're being interviewed by that company, you're also interviewing them too. And you want to make sure that that is a good fit for you.
That's not time to ask about calm. Just
Or how much time off you're gonna get.
don't ask those questions. Ask about the role, the culture, something. Don't ask about stocks. Yeah. Not the time to ask those questions, just saying.
We have some resources at the CCO that can help you prepare for interviews. We have our lovely CCO handbook, and I just delivered like a whole box to it upstairs. So if you want one, go pick one up. In that book, we have example behavioral interview questions. We have the STAR method written out. Just a lot of great resources. We also have Big Interview that is a module-based on-demand resource that you can use anytime. If you're like 3 a.m. awake and really bored, you can hop on it, do it then. I say that because I'm usually waking up at 3 a.m. not really bored, but have a little bit of time. It's because I have newborns, guys. I'm really excited about them. Anyway, you also have mock interviews that you can do. So mock interviews, you can use this book to do it. You can come into the CCO and do it with a person like me who's a career consultant. Heck, you can like look up questions online, have Brian ask you questions.
You can book an appointment with me. I was a hiring manager in my previous role before coming here to Purdue.
So use them, okay? Practice. practice, guys. And after the interview, so here's a couple of things that you can do within 24 hours. Send a thank you email, just letting them know that you appreciated their time. Maybe bring out something that you talked about in the conversation, maybe reiterate your skills. But you want to kind of send that note like right away. I will also personally send thank you cards through the mail, or you can even write those thank you cards like when you're in the lobby of the place that you're interviewing, and have somebody like send that to your interviewers too. If you get an acceptance, please come into the CCO or have a chat with Brian about job offer negotiations. So that's one thing. If you get a rejection, thank them for their time and their consideration, and use that as learning opportunities to kind of, get back out there and try again. I will say that the job that I am right now, I actually got a rejection for it. First off, I had like the second round interview, and they're like, thanks, but we have other great candidates. And so I like separated myself from the computer, cried a little bit on the floor, got back up and said, thank you. I appreciate your time. And guess what? The other person that they were going to hire stepped away. And then they said, hey, Anna, why did you come work for us? So those thank you emails, they do work, and it leaves a good impression in the folks' minds. And if you don't get a response, you might email them again, thanking them again for their time, you're expressing your interest in the position, and just ask about the status of things. What you don't want to do is have an interview, then tell you that you'll hear back in a couple of weeks, and then they never answer you back, and then you do nothing. So that's after me. Okay, so this is, yes, of course.
So we have another step between the resume review and the interview that I just want to make you aware of, because a lot of our military candidates fall off on. We have an online assessment for a lot of our jobs. And they're kind of a combination between cultural competencies and technical competencies. If you don't take the online assessment, all the other people are marching in line ahead of you in the queue. So take it seriously, look at our leadership principles. I don't know, we have a lot of military failing the cultural competency. I think they're just putting B, and they're not taking it seriously. So review our leadership principles. So answer them in the framework of our culture, and then the technical piece, and submit it. Because if you don't take it for a month, that job could close. Everybody else is moving ahead of you. It's just a part of our process that I see our military candidates struggling. Try to add that.
And so we kind of reached the end of my presentation. I have a QR code with your next step, wanting you to follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram as well. We also have pre-professional advising. So if anybody in here is interested in like pre-law, pre-health, pre-med, pre-this, pre-that, you want to talk to our pre-professional advisors. And I also have a QR code for my CCO. Please check these things out, especially on LinkedIn and Instagram. We have some good information, good things coming down the pipe that I want you all to be aware of. And extra points to everybody taking a picture right now. Shit, it's all done.
What questions do y'all have?
So what's the best way to frame, like I've worked at a farm stand for 2 years and I've also worked at a daycare. I took engineering for 4 years in high school. What's the best way to phrase that to a professional who's looking to hire somebody? Because I don't have the professional experience that somebody else who could have an internship would have.
You want to go first?
I mean, we definitely value volunteer work, projects you've done in school. The experience you just described sounds like professional experience to me, so I think you're downplaying it. So yeah, don't rule out anything. And then the way you frame your resume could be based on, this is my volunteer work, this was my school projects, these were my paid positions, or chronological. Just my best advice is look at the basic qualifications of the role. We cannot by law move you forward if you don't meet the basic qualifications. I'm just gonna say that right now. So look at basic qualifications and then frame your resume in a way that really highlights that you meet those basic qualifications, whether that's competency based or time based, but all of that counts. It absolutely counts.
So for us, when we were doing the hiring at my previous position, show of hands in here, who in here has had a job? Worked someplace before? Who in here has gone to higher education and gotten or is working towards a degree? Everybody here? So you're already 80% the same as everybody else that's applying. Those are the things I expect, right? I expect those at a base level. I'm gonna see those. I liked to see something that told me a little bit more about you. What made you different than every other student who had a part-time job, belonged to a club, was part of Greek life, did some volunteering, and was getting a degree from fill in the blank university. If you could tell me something else about yourself and your experiences in your resume or in a cover letter, that would help me be more interested in you as a candidate. And because I would get, we were not Amazon. I worked in professional sports. So we would list a job and I would have 1,000 applicants for a single position. I can't read 1,000 resumes. Can't do it. It's just too many. So we were using our applicant tracking system to weed out a bunch and give me the ones that met those base qualifications that I had to have. And then I was starting to look for something interesting.
Don't assume they'll read between.
Then I was looking for something interesting. Same, that's cool. Same, that's cool. And if when I got done sorting through that pile, I only had a couple of that's cools, I might go back to that same pile and look at them again. But if I got enough of these to start doing some interviews, I probably never went back to these. So you don't have to have professional experience. Most employers who are coming onto campus to recruit aren't looking for professional experience. They're looking for the education because you're going to the university that they like to recruit from, right? Talk about your projects, talk about group work, talk about things that you did on campus that were just above doing homeworks and exams, things that you got involved in. That kind of stuff was huge for us.
And just add on to that, when you just list a long list of things you were responsible for, but we want to know what the impact was. Like, how did you make it different? It's not just, I was responsible for 20,000 things. Okay, well,
All they did was sit in the
what
warehouse
was
and
the
never.
result of what you did? How did you impact the organization?
Yep.
I was responsible for 20,000 things and I let every 20,000 down.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so that using action verbs and impact.
I have a resume question. So resumes that I've seen and that I've made for myself and stuff. It seems like it's evolved over the years and it's kind of like trying to get through the applicant tracking system. And so people will make up these like matrices with like, I know, Python, engineering, management, whatever. Is that looked down upon?
To get to the ATS, no. What I would suggest for every company out there is you look at that job description and pretty much copy and paste the roles and responsibilities as best you can of what we're previously doing. It would be the best way because that's all that ATS system is doing, especially with AI starting to get involved now with a lot of the recruiting stuff that we're using here at Amazon and other companies are adopting. The matching keywords and they're saying, oh, this person's a 68% fit, this person's at 89% fit.
Yep.
So me as a recruiter, when I start going down the list, because just like you, I have 1,000 applicants every day that I'm starting to go.
And the first line says you have to have served in the military and 95% of them have not served in the military.
Yeah.
Just saying, read the.
So the more
Basic
keywords you start matching up, the more to the top of the list you're getting, and I'm gonna hit you first as I start going down that list, because I'm gonna be honest, out of that 1,000, one, I'm scanning them for 30 seconds, right? I'm looking at the top, looking at the most
He's
recent.
a recruiter. I'm a program manager, so look.
Yeah,
at those
so-
pieces.
I'm 30 seconds looking for keywords, and then, I'll look at your job description, what you're currently doing, and if it's pretty well aligned, then I'm reaching out to you. And I probably only hit the top 10 to 20 every day, because I don't have enough candidates to work through that bucket. So that's the biggest thing, is getting to the ATS system or just networking with the recruiter. That is the number one, is
Yeah.
getting to whoever's making the decision, whether that's me as a recruiter or the hiring manager, like if a position Robin's hiring for. Do not be afraid to bug the recruiter every day. Do not be afraid to bug us. Get our LinkedIns, and you know, if it's a job that you're a good fit for, but make my job easy. You come to me when you send that email, resume, what jobs you're looking for.
Tailored resume to the job you're saying with the 5-digit code of the job that you are. That's your best.
Yep, because if you come to me at a job fair and you're a great fit and you email me the next day after that job fair, why would I even look at that? They're like, I've met this person. They were friendly, they were great, they were professional, they meet my basic qualifications. I'm not even looking at that. So I'm going to the person that I see in front of me, that followed up with me, that got my email address. So that's networking is it. The chances of you applying for a position and getting that job are getting slimmer and slimmer. It's really all about networking.
Well, there's one other thing I would say for at least Amazon. Employee referrals are huge. So if you know an Amazonian, remember I talked about our leadership principles? If another Amazonian employee refers you, they're basically giving you the stamp of approval that you are Amazonian fit. So you go into a different bucket. You cannot apply first. If you have an employee referral, send your friend the job number and your resume. They have to submit it, then you get invited to apply. If you apply first, they cannot submit an employee referral. That's just the way that works. So if you know anybody who works at Amazon, definitely get to know them, talk to them about the good, the bad, the ugly. And employee referral is huge, but also at the career fairs, getting to know the hiring managers and the recruiters that are there is also huge. So,
Yeah, employer fields are, I forgot all about that, but that's how I came into Amazon. I was an airline pilot. I wanted to leave being an airline pilot. And then I talked to my buddy who was also an airline pilot, left being an airline pilot, was working for Amazon. I said, hey, how do you like it? What are you doing? He was like, I love it, way better than flying for the airlines. And then 10 years later, I'm still here with Amazon, trying to employee referral. So,
it still is a lot about who you know.
you know,
And don't be afraid to use like family members and friends for that thing too, because I know some people like, oh, I can't like ask my mom, because that's like ask my mom, not my friend. Use your mom. It's okay.
Yeah, they know people too.
Well, and at least for us, because we're both supporting military recruiting specifically. If there's a role listed that says the word veteran in it, you're competing against fewer people than you are for a non-veteran. I'm just saying. If you go on Amazon.jobs and screen for veteran, it's gonna narrow your search down and you'll have a much better competitive advantage for those types of roles.
Yeah, yeah.
Three things I would say, I'm sorry, three things I would say about your resume question real quick. One, kind of caveating what he did. What I recommended to people was go to the job description, look at the job description, read it, like really read it. If they repeated a word or phrase or something in a job description multiple times, that's probably pretty important. These things are all made generally, other than the AI stuff that's happening now, generally made by people. And if it's on their mind, they're probably going to drop it in that job description a couple of different places. That's probably one of those key things that's also going to be made into the applicant tracking system weeder, that, hey, you know, underwater basket weaving, you know, if I've talked about underwater basket weaving 3 different times in the job description, that's probably one of the phrases I put into the applicant tracking system as one of my differentiating things. Just saying. The other piece is the networking is huge. When I retired from the military, I applied for more than 45 different jobs, and I got exactly 0 of them from the jobs I applied for blindly. Every job I got interviewed for, it was because I'd networked with somebody at a career fair ahead of time. We talked, we built a conversation, discussed applying, I applied, they made sure I got pulled through, including this job. Purdue weeded me out for this job by their applicant tracking system. They ruled me unqualified for it. It was because I had networked with some folks here. I used to be an ROTC instructor on campus, and so I knew some people on campus. And so they reached over to HR and had my application pulled through and sent into the hiring manager. And that networking piece is the reason I got every interview I got once I retired, and the reason I got all the jobs that I got hired for was because I knew somebody and I had somebody helping me get through that mess. And most of it came from career fair stuff.
So I've been applying to some jobs lately, and one thing I've noticed, it's a little bit different than private sector, but some of the political stuff that's been going on and whatnot. A lot of the, it used to be that you had to go on this thing called USA Jobs, and you had to have this resume that was approximately 58 pages. Anyhow, they, I say they, I don't know who exactly, but somebody. Yeah, somebody in the government right now was like, this is all screwed up and we're gonna try to fix it. And so the ones that have been going through the process of doing what they're being asked to do, some of them have got done. And if you go on to USA Jobs, it'll basically, it's just a clearinghouse for your documents that sends your documents to the,
Hiring.
the place where you're applying a hiring manager in the department or whatever. But then when you get there, it says, you know, Judy Smith is the contact, here's her email address, and then you have to follow all these instructions to send Judy Smith the stuff that, which is probably a nightmare for, if that happened to you guys, because you get 1,000.
That's not how Amazon.
Yeah.
But I have navigated USA jobs, so I had, and I was a hiring manager for the government, so I
But
do
some
know
of,
the pain and stuff, right?
some of this stuff that I guess I've noticed is changing from it has when I've had to deal with it in the past. Because they're trying to fight the applicant tracking system, because of kind of like what you said, when you're having good candidates not getting pulled through.
Sorry, I mean,
You're completely.
go ahead.
So you mentioned a lot about like tailoring your resume for like the company's culture that you're trying to apply to. If you're going to one of these career fairs where you have so many different companies that you're researching and they all have like different cultures, if I have like printed out resumes, should I have like different resumes for the company or should I, so, okay.
I would say yes to the point, if that's a company that you're super interested in, then I would say yes. Take the time to make a tailored resume based on the research that you've done for that company and for that position. Generally speaking, if you're gonna, hey, I've got 5 companies that I'm super interested in, and these are the ones that I'm hyper focused on. I've got 5 different resumes that are built around them that have their job post number written on the resume for the job position that you're interested in, that kind of thing. And then I might have one of the more general resumes, like Anna was talking about, that I might have uploaded to my CCO, that if I have targets of opportunity, that might be the one that I'm handing over to those employers. Like, hey, I walk by and I say, this place, you know, hey, this is a cool little display and there's nobody in line, and go talk to them. Here's a general resume, because you wouldn't want to miss that opportunity. Because I'll be honest, when I first got here, I found brand awareness was a really big problem for most of my military connected, specifically veteran students. They were very focused on the label, and they were missing out on some amazing job opportunities at some companies that they'd never heard of before, because they wanted to go work at Lockheed Martin. They wanted to go work at Northrop Grumman. They wanted to go work at Raytheon. But I had an employer partner come trying to recruit John Deere, and I was having a hard time convincing my veterans to go work for a tractor making company. I'm like, do you understand that they're making computer guided tractors that are using satellites for navigation that are completely autonomous? That's pretty close to the same kind of stuff that Lockheed and those guys are making too. That's pretty cool stuff. And they're paying twice what Lockheed was, or one of those other companies was hiring for one of their entry level positions. So you cut your salary in half just because you didn't want to work for the big green machine kind of thing. So I say all that to say, don't just turn your nose up because you've never heard of them, or you're like, well, I'm not interested in making tractors. You've no idea what kinds of opportunities may exist in some of these organizations.
I always tell, so I used to be a civilian managing the transition program at Joint Base Support. And I'm not very tall. I haven't stood up, but I'm not very tall. I would stand at the bottom of the stairs and I would force all the service members to go speak to the employers, because they automatically had this mental model that I'm not interested in X, Y, and Z, and you don't understand all the opportunities they may have. So open your mind, and we call things very strange titles. So if you search on Amazon.jobs, you might be putting in a title that we don't use. So you have to really do your homework, I guess, and don't close the door on opportunities before you actually explore them. It's super important. But another thing I will say about resumes and applying, another thing I've seen my military folks do is they'll apply for like 300 jobs in Amazon, and it'll be from human resources to ops to software development. And
CEO.
it's like a shotgun blast, and has a huge red flag for the recruiter, because we want to know you took it a step back and said, here's where my passion is, where my capability is. This is the type of work I want to do. Now, that doesn't mean you can't apply for program management and human resources. You know, there's some overlap, right? But don't just throw your resume at the wall and see what's going to stick, because it's going to be a red flag. We want to know you've figured out, this is where I'm going to have the impact. This is where my passion lies. This is the direction I'm trying to go. Big deal.
Any other questions from over here?
I have a question about the career fairs.
Yeah,
So let's say you make the custom resumes and all of that stuff, you do all of your research, but then, because this is just how the world works, there's another company there that you didn't do your research on, and also like the line is non-existent, and you want to go up to them without any prior research, how would you handle that conversation?
I would take 5 minutes off in the shady spot underneath one of the trees out there, and I would pull out my phone and I would do some quick research before I walked up to the table. I love going to their web pages and looking at like their about page and just kind of reading, because they'll tell you what their mission is, what their vision is. They'll talk about their culture. They'll have their culture statements. They'll have a bunch of that kind of stuff in there that'll cue you into the kind of organization that they're trying or aspiring to be. You can go to their jobs or their career page and you can look and see if, hey, I'm here at Purdue University getting my, doctoral degree in underwater basket weaving, and they have an underwater basket weaving division. So we're aligned. Let me see what they've got available within that spectrum that I would be a good fit for. And then you just got a couple things off the top of your head. Hey, I was doing a quick check of your company. I saw that you believe in nap pods, and I'm a huge believer in naps. And I see that you have this underwater basket weaving division, and I'm about to get my doctorate in underwater basket weaving. This is an amazing conversation. What a coincidence. You know what I mean? Just as an example, like you can walk up there cold if you want to and just strike up a conversation. I don't want to discourage you from that, but if you can give yourself that 5-minute timeout, go sit under a tree in the shade for a second, look them up, give yourself a couple of talking points, and then just go up and talk to them. I hope that you've got at least a couple copies of that generalized resume for those targets of opportunity, and just strike up a conversation. Hey, I was checking you guys out. I was really interested in the fact that you guys make, porcelain nesting dolls. That's got to be a great market because they break so easy. So people are always buying new, whatever example you want to come up with.
To his point, you'll be much more memorable
Right.
if you've done some homework, as opposed to, again, I have people that walk up and say, what does Amazon do? But the other thing my military candidates say all the time, and I know this is true, but it's not a conversation starter. They'll say, I can do anything. I can learn anything. Just give me a chance. And I know that's true, but that's a conversation killer. I need to know where your passion lies. So if you've done that tiny bit of homework and you can show that you're genuinely interested in that company, and they'll remember you, as opposed
Yep.
to, I had to explain to this person what Amazon does and what jobs. I mean, I'm just saying, it puts you in a different bucket, just from a human perspective.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I worked in sports. And so I would ask folks, why do you want to work in sports? And the number one answer I got out of 99% of my candidates was, I used to play sports. I played X in high school, or I played X, it's like, I'm not hiring you to play basketball anymore. I'm not hiring you to play baseball anymore. I'm not hiring you to play soccer anymore. I'm hiring you to provide that entertainment experience for others. So that was a terrible answer. Like, I don't care that you used to be an athlete. That's not what I'm interested in. But there was one answer that said, sports saved my relationship with my kids.
I was.
And that was like, okay,
Tell
take
me
as,
more
take
about
as
it.
much time with that answer as you want, because I am really interested in hearing that story. I don't care if that's 20 minutes. That's going to keep me on the edge of my seat the whole time, right? So I'm not saying you got to have some kind of life altering experience of why you want to go work for a particular company, but it's got to be something genuine and differentiating. Again, you're competing with other people who have had part-time jobs. They did some activities. They were involved in Greek life or clubs or whatever, and they're getting an education at Purdue. Most of you, or some of you in this room, have the added advantage of saying I have military experience, or I'm a military family member. They got to go cool and interesting places with my parents, or. So those are a piece of your differentiation right off the bat. But you're always looking for a way to make yourself stand out against the rest of the folks there that kind of make you interesting, make you worth continuing to talk to. And hopefully you fill in their blanks so you can get an interview. Yes.
Okay, so my dad was in the military, so I'm a vet.
Yep.
How would I bring that up? Like, if you're a veteran, that's kind of easy or easier to bring up. How do I bring up that I'm a military dependent?
I mean, to us, it's the resilience that comes along with moving and being in different cultures and adapting to different, just things that people who didn't have that experience don't bring to the table.
Is that something to put in my elevator pitch, or is that just
it comes up in conversation, like,
Did you, move around a lot as a kid because of your parents' service, or were you kind of located in one place?
but.
So my kids are kind of in the same boat. They're both fairly young when I retired. So they didn't get to go as many places as they could have potentially. But, my daughter's favorite answer for that kind of question is, you know, where are you from? Well, I'm kind of from all over, but the coolest place I'm from is Hawaii.
I was wondering.
Story time. Story time.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that can give that kind of answer, right? So like, okay, how did you end up in Indiana from Hawaii? You know what I mean? Like, but it becomes something that we can actually have a conversation about. And it's not robotic, and it's not dry, and it's not gray and uninspiring or interesting. Like, oh, I gotta talk to 4,000 more of you today. Please, God, have something interesting to say. The human factor on the other side of the table is real. I mean, the people on our side of the table are trying to be as professional as we can be. It's our job. It's what our companies are paying us to do. But there is a human factor. We get hungry. We get tired. We stayed up too late last night watching movies in the hotel room, whatever. Like, there is a human factor. So be human. You know, something like that. That is a great way to work in that you are a military dependent. You know, I'm really lucky to be here at Purdue University using my parents' military education benefits. Really? Your parents are in the military? Tell me more. That kind of thing. Great question. What else?
Sometimes at career fairs, I'll do my research. I plan specific questions for the company.
Sure.
What I hear back from the recruiters that they're not part of that team. I can't really give you a good response to that question.
That happens a lot.
That's true.
So we're part of what's called talent acquisition. We have this much budget. So this is a rarity that I'm from Seattle, he's from Kentucky. It's a rarity that we were authorized to travel to come here. So a lot of times I'll have to send either hiring managers who are local, or we have a huge employee affinity group called the Warriors, who just love going to these events and talking about their experience, how they transitioned from whatever they did to Amazon. So the harsh reality is that might be the human you're talking to. However, you can still get great information from that person about the company's culture, about their experience, about their hiring practices. And at least in our case, I've trained them to take down your information. And so I will quite often, after an event, even if they just got your email, I'll send you an email and say, hey, I know we spoke to you, fill your profile out. So I know if the recruiters want to talk to you. If you ignore that email, that career fair and that conversation was a waste of everybody's time. Does that make sense? Because that's just the reality we live in, right? And so I will do my very best to send somebody so that we can connect with candidates and we can collect their information so that my recruiters can speak with you. But I can't always spend, like, we've got everything from pickers and packers in a fulfillment center to, you know, very, very senior data scientists, right? And everything in between. I'm never going to be able to send everybody who can speak to every opportunity to that career fair, but they will have some perspective and some information about Amazon they can share. And if you fill out your information, I can promise you, we will send you something which will collect your resume and your background and information so that we can get you into our process.
What if that person's gonna know the right contacts?
You never
Find them
know.
on LinkedIn, or they can give you that contact directly.
But there is no human at Amazon that knows everything. There just isn't. I should, but I don't.
I would probably say prepare two sets, right? Or two flavors of it. If you're super interested in a specific position, you never know who they're going to send. To her point, like, you don't know if somebody from that department might actually show up to the career fair. If you didn't prepare those questions, then you lost your opportunity to ask some really interesting questions specifically to that role. But if you ask, like, hey, you know, I'm really interested in underwater basket weaving, they say, well, we don't do underwater basket weaving. We just do the space basket weaving. I can't answer your question, but it's okay. Now I'm shifting to more of my general company culture. Things like, what were some, you know, surprises for you in the hiring and onboarding process with Amazon? What was something that surprised you, good or bad? You know,
Anybody can answer that.
what were some of your challenges getting through the hiring process? What would you recommend to a student to help me prepare for that kind of experience? You know, those kinds of things that everybody's gonna go through. Everybody had to apply, everybody had to get interviewed, everybody had to go through onboarding. Everybody goes to work and experiences the work culture. Those are kinds of questions that you can ask anybody from any company and they'll be able to answer those.
And if you have a long enough conversation, they might give you an employee referral. You just don't know, right?
Right.
They might be connected, they might not have information about that job, but they might know some, if they're, especially if they're in the Warriors Affinity Group, they've got a big network. So they might know somebody that can help you, but if you just go, oh, shoot, you don't know about what I asked and you walk away.
And I will be honest too, sometimes the recruiters that are sent to career fairs are kind of a bust. You like the same way that you might have a student who's like is totally unprepared, some companies might send a recruiter that's totally unprepared and it's not you sort of thing. And I know Amazon wouldn't do that. But
Never, that wouldn't happen.
But, you know, in that sort of situation, you know, if you're not getting a lot, or they're just like sitting behind the table on their phone, wanting to walk anywhere else, you say, oh, well, you know, either that company's lost out on you, a great candidate, or you just try it.
What else? Got some more time if you guys have more questions. What's up?
Well, you mentioned like figuring out the company's culture or something. How do you do that? Because it seems,
Well, for us, it's easy, you just look for our leadership principles and the about page for most companies' landing pages will talk about what they're about. But using LinkedIn is another huge thing, like, connect with people who work there on LinkedIn, ask them that, like, if you find a person that has like hashtag warriors in any post on LinkedIn, that means they worked at Amazon. And they work at Amazon and they're connected with the military. So I don't know any of them that won't like have a cup of coffee. And I mean, that's how Amazon's culture could be discovered, but I'm sure other companies
Yep.
have something similar.
We talk about it a lot, like in our LinkedIn workshop that's coming up in a couple weeks. But going on to LinkedIn and searching through the company, right? So I'm gonna look up Amazon and I'm gonna look for two things. I'm gonna sort Amazon by two things, particularly for me. I'm gonna look for military or veteran status, somebody that served and is also working there, because that's something we have in common. And or because I'm a Purdue student, I'm also gonna look to see if they're a Purdue alum. And if I can find somebody who's a veteran and a Purdue alum, jackpot. If I can find one or the other, I can probably reach out to that person and just say, hey, I'm a current Purdue student, super interested in coming to work for Amazon. I would love the opportunity to sit on a 30-minute coffee call with you and ask you some questions. Would you be willing to schedule a call with me? Most of the time, if you've got that commonality of military or Purdue or something that, you know, you're from the same hometown, whatever, you've got something in common, most of the time they'll say yes. Every now and then you'll find somebody who's a curmudgeon or they don't check their LinkedIn very often, but most of the time they'll say yes. And they'll jump on a 30-minute coffee call with you. And I love, same thing you had up there for the end of your conversation piece, on your, slide. Go back. There. Number 3, ask. In those coffee calls or those connections, is there anybody else that you would recommend that I speak to? Is there somebody else that would be a great, you know, conversation for me to learn more? You know, I've really appreciated this connection because we've got this Purdue thing or we've got a military thing, but I'm super interested in that underwater basket weaving. Do you know anybody over in that underwater basket weaving department that would be willing to jump on a call and see if they'll do an introduction and refer you? Because then you can find out about that specific thing that you're asking about. You used your commonality between your veteran status, military status, Purdue status, but now you're getting handed over to somebody in that thing that you're looking for. And that can be a great way to kind of peel back some of those onions. Networking is huge. And I like when I write it, it's like net, small letters, working, because it's work. You got to put effort into it. But if you put some honest and genuine effort into it, you can take out some gold.
I was just gonna make sure people know that veterans can get a free premium
Yep.
LinkedIn account. That's a big deal.
Yes.
Otherwise, you can't email people, but when you use that silver bullet, make it personal, connecting, you know, don't just do that shotgun blast.
I see that you work at Amazon.
I'm a veteran, help me. No,
But please help me. Like,
delete. Just-
message sent to Jeff.
Well, he's not there anymore.
What?
Andy is.
But I'm like
Yes.
shooting at the CEO of the company, like, yeah, I'm interested in working at Tesla. Please tell me more, Elon. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're looking for something like, hey, I'm a current student here. I'm, retired Army, or I'm a former Marine, whatever. Super interested. I see that you made that transition. I'd love to learn how you did it and figure out how to set myself up for success. What else? That was a great question.
What you do for career fields that are more generalized towards a certain degree. Like there's supposed to be a career field that I got an email for computer programming, even though I'm more electrical engineering side.
So what I recommend, what I like to tell employers about our student population is I've got 2,500 students that we're serving through our office right now, and our students represent over 250 different degree plans at Purdue. That's great. It sounds awesome. But if they're a company that's looking for interior designers, I only have a single one student in that degree field. So when that student comes to me and says, hey, why didn't you bring more interior design companies to your career field or career fair? I simply say, I don't have enough draw to make it worth the employer coming, but I recommend you going through your college. Connect through your college, talk to your professors, figure out when they're doing their career fairs, figure out when they're doing their employee introductions and expos and those kinds of events, and prioritize those, because the College of Interior Design or Underwater Basket Weaving has all of the Purdue students in that degree field, and so they have the muscle to bring those employers on campus. So like our career fair that we got coming up, I think I've got 15 employers right now. I lost count. I think it's 15. So I can't answer the bell for every single student, but the employers that are coming answer the bell for my biggest degrees. Like obviously engineering, that box is checked because there's a lot of them, that kind of thing. So for if you've got one of those more nuanced things, really lean heavy on your college and those folks. Talk to the CCO and say, hey, I've got this degree in this field. Who are the employer partners that work with Purdue? Because they have a catalog of employers that are registered with Purdue that are looking for people in these fields. Their job board will be able to let you kind of, I think you can still search by degree, can't you?
Yes.
On your job board, so you can put your thing in there and see which companies are hiring for that degree program.
David, I want to hire you for the data center or for computer, software development. You can fit for either of those. Come talk to us.
And I'll also say too, the same way that your military career had a lot of transferable skills to the civilian world, you have a lot of transferable skills between maybe your degree program and other positions.
Yeah, if you haven't heard, the data centers are exploding and they need electrical, mechanical, HVAC, computer, they need all the engineers. All of them. And there will be no shortage of growth and opportunity in Indiana and other states. Just saying.
Guess you want to leave Indiana.
What? Who would want to ever leave Indiana?
I love Indiana.
Oh, my kids and my grandkids were in Indiana. I get it. And we do have jobs.
What else? What other questions or topics or things you want to talk about? We're here for y'all.
Okay, so back to the present again.
Sure.
How far back should it go? Because like, I mean, I have high school stuff, like, I don't know, like, where I'm supposed to start, like, with experience like this. So,
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I see this a lot because freshmen are in and they're coming through the program, through our office. We generally say that like by your sophomore year, your high school experience should be off of the resume, because you should have a lot more relevant experiences that you've done in college that should take up that space.
so specifically, I did the USAF Aim High Flight Academy. So like, I got to do like the first 15 hours of my pilot's license kind of thing. Is that something that I would eventually take off, or should I keep that? Because I want to go into aerospace. So do you think that that's relevant experience I should keep on my resume? Or because I did it in my junior year of high school, it should kind of like fade off as I progress through college?
Are you getting flight experience here at Purdue? Not right now. Will you eventually get flight experience?
Maybe, it's really expensive.
Yeah, and then also too, on the other hand, will you have more relevant experience that for those companies or those positions that you can put on the resume, where that flight experience that you did your junior year of high school doesn't matter as much.
That would have been my, to me, as long as it's relevant, keep it. And there's no like special number of years, if it's not relevant. then- But if it was something that you worked hard to get and it shows, you know, that you were, and it's still applicable, I would leave it on, but.
So the question really that you kind of need to know too is, what is your resume for? Does anybody know? What's the purpose of your resume? What's the job?
I know the answers except for you say it before, so I'm. But all right,
Anybody else? You know what your resume's job is? Go ahead, Ryan.
to get the interview.
To get you an interview. That's the job of the resume. So my answer to you would be, is that on your resume going to help you get to the interview? If yes, leave it. If no, maybe not. So that's where that whole, does it help you? Is it applicable to what you're trying to do? Plus you're specifically for entry level positions, right? We like to tell you, try to keep it to a page. For our veteran folks, we usually say a page, you know, for page front and back, because you got military experience, there's a little bit more on there. We can justify having some more, but it's prime real estate. It's very, very valuable territory that you can only fit so much into. So you want to try to make what goes on your resume the most valuable properties about you that you can, so that it can do its job and get you talking to somebody in an interview situation. Make sense? Yeah. What else? These are great questions. Yeah. Okay.
That you can like fit in perspective of the company. So if a company that uses like a different engineering program like Team Center asks you what's your greatest weakness, then it would be okay to say, well, I'm not familiar with your guys' system yet. Like, what should I put it in perspective of the company, or should I say my own personality traits?
You don't really ask that question.
Yeah, I got more personality, if another company.
Yeah,
had more
yeah.
Personality traits versus. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, like I said, we ask like what time you failed or what you learned. We don't ask that specific question. But I did like your comment about hiding a strength and a weakness that people see through that all day. So yeah, I mean, the personality trait potentially, but also if you've done your homework and you know, you've learned this language, but you're not as familiar with that, that's a completely valid answer to that question as well.
Especially that part of like doing your research and being able to bring up something specific that the company does that you're not familiar with. That's a sly way to show that like you've done the extra steps.
But you know what, for us would be huge. So one of our leadership principles is learn to be curious. So, and what that means is you just, and if you think about a tech company, if you don't want to learn and you're not curious, you will be obsolete very quickly. So, in that scenario, you could say, well, I'm familiar with this, but I'm not, I see you guys use this and I'm not as familiar, but here's an example of a time where I went above and beyond to learn a new technology or a new skill because I was just super interested. You know what I mean? It would show how your capability to fill in that knowledge gap.
Good question. What else?
The best answer I ever got for learn and be curious was a guy who just figured out how to use his Instapot. Had nothing to do with technology or anything. The lengths he went to learn how to use his Instapot. I'm what's called a bar raiser at Amazon, so I've done hundreds and hundreds of it. And it doesn't have to relate to the job you're about to do. It's about how your mind works and your curiosity and the lengths you'll go to fill in a knowledge gap. Because our theory is you can have a PhD in computer science and 20 patents, but if you're not curious, it's probably gonna be a no all day, every day. If you have the right mindset and the right culture, we can make you Amazonian. But if the opposite is true, it's just not. So I'm just Instapot. Best answer I ever got. Had nothing to do with the job whatsoever.
So it kind of like, so I just want to make sure that I'm understanding kind of like the process from like y'all's like perspective.
Mhm.
So you hand in your resume, you apply for the job, everything, that step happens. If they call you in for an interview, they think you're capable of it, right?
Well, you have to, so the first step is the resume review. Gotta show you meet the BQs. If you do that, you move on to potentially an online assessment. You pass that, you usually move to a recruiter phone screen next, which is a recruiter, like Fred, speaking to you, just validating your basic qualifications, your salary expectations, your timeline, where you're physically willing to. There is almost no remote work at Amazon. If you want to be remote, go find another company. I'm just saying, that's the biggest question we get every time. I want only remote job. I'm sorry, there's very few. So my point is, a recruiter phone screen is where they suss out all those details. You make it past that. Normally, your next is a hiring manager phone screen. That's the first behavioral based interview, but you've made it through all of those steps. So you are definitely in the running if you get to that point.
So at what point is it really about who you are and like your personality fit?
The, well,
Manager.
the hiring manager, yes.
Yeah.
The recruiter, no lie, if you get some red flags in your recruiting phone screen, you might not move forward.
Yeah, very rarely does that happen. My phone screen is, I've already kind of assessed you. I've, looked at your LinkedIn, like I think you're a good fit for the position. But then all of a sudden, if I talk to you, if there is a red flag, then yeah, I won't move you forward. Very rarely does that happen. Unless you tell me like, yeah, I'm looking for 2 million a year, or something crazy like that. But yeah, so
The hiring manager phone screen's the first behavioral based cultural fit. But yeah, if you do any red flags with the recruiter, like I've had people, so we have cleared roles, and I've had military candidates who decide that it's a really good idea to bash, let's just say, make something up, the CIA during their interview and say how stupid they are. Not a good choice.
yeah, I've had some political comments before.
Yeah, those, so those types of red flags aren't gonna move you forward, but the hiring manager is truly the first one that's gonna really be looking at team fit. And then if you get past that, normally, it's a multi-person loop. Where each person is assigned with competencies, and there's usually what's called a bar raiser, who's a person who's outside the organization that's supposed to be an objective neutral third party that's just trying to maintain the company's culture. Who has no dog in the fight, right? And they will each be evaluating for different things. They have to put in their vote blind. They don't know what anybody else said. And then they have a conversation about your strengths, and they compare data and notes. And quite often, I'll go into one of those meetings, not inclined, and somebody will have a counter data point that says, no, this person did display ownership in that. So it's not a, it's very actually, I kind of think it's scientific because you're there to listen to the evidence and the data, but that's why you need to have multiple stories. If you say the same story to every single person, or you change the answer, not good. So
And to back to your question, ask them about their hiring process, because everybody does it a little bit different.
yeah, that's ours. That's not.
Everybody's got a little bit different hiring process and what those different stages are and the things that they're looking for at different points. 99% of the time, they're gonna be clear and transparent with you. They're gonna tell you what the hiring process looks like and what they're looking for at each of those things, because there's a reason their company sent them here. It's to hire people. And if they're being secretive or cagey about the hiring process, they're probably not doing a very good job of representing their company's interests in gaining candidates and future employees.
We don't have any budget. When they actually send us, they expect us to come back with hires. That's why we're sent anywhere.
Yep.
To come back with hires, so.
And we had a question over here.
I have 2 questions. Is LinkedIn mandatory? Like, if you find somebody and they don't have LinkedIn, are you just throwing them out?
Not necessarily, but
It depends on the role, I would say.
LinkedIn is the best, one of the best networking tools out there. Every recruiter that I talk to, y'all use LinkedIn. It's for a recruiter. Yeah, that's how we find talent. That's how we engage with talent. That's where you show up on applicant tracking systems and your hiring manager is going to do the research too. So if I go to the hiring manager, because I'm on the hook for the candidate if I vouch.
He can't waste the hiring manager's
I
time.
cannot mess, yeah, I cannot, because I used to be a hiring manager. I hated when recruiters did that to me. I'm like, we should do anything, like any type of research on this candidate, because they totally bombed this interview and you just wasted not only my time, but
The whole loop stuff,
yeah, the whole loop time.
which every hour for 5 people.
Yeah.
Is significant.
So, but
So it's not mandatory, but it's advised, and I do think it depends on the role personally. There are certain roles, like corporate roles, where it's probably more important than other roles, like, and more entry level, like fulfillment center roles, it's probably not as important. But for corporate, I would say it's pretty important.
Yeah, every candidate out there for a hiring manager, that's the first thing they typically, like, they take a look at your resume, make sure we're on the right track, then they're going to LinkedIn, so they're also checking your posts. And some hiring managers will even look for Instagrams, Facebooks to see if values align as well. I've seen a lot of that where I'm like, I've talked to the hiring manager, I'm like, hey, why'd you turn this candidate down? Like, this is the person, this is a unicorn. And they're like, there was some Facebook post that I didn't really agree with. I don't think that's a good person to bring on the team. You know, something that they didn't personally agree with, whatever the case may be. Their digital presence is a thing.
So I had jobs where it was unadvisable to have social media.
Yeah, we get it. We hired a lot of clear.
So do I need to make up a LinkedIn thing and like just ask everybody and their dog to be my contact?
Absolutely.
For the LinkedIn, workshop that we're going to have, we have like ways to get those connections and like kind of a run through of LinkedIn. I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of my job to do LinkedIn too, and I don't really care for it. But there are certain things that you can put on there that you have that shows who you are and your personality.
We do hire a lot of clear talent and we get that that's a thing. I'm not saying it's not a thing. But you know, it is something that recruiters use.
Yeah, like, so I was a hiring manager, I used to too. Like, if a recruiter came to me and said, hey, I think you'd be a good person for your team, I'm usually checking their LinkedIn. And if they didn't have one, it's not the biggest, you know, I didn't turn the candidate away. I still went through with the interview, but I may put different candidates ahead of others based upon what I see on LinkedIn.
Now, I was just gonna say, and when it comes to the job search, one kind of good thing to put in your mind is if it doesn't hurt, you might as well do it.
I had another question, real quick. So, you know, it seems like if you ask 100 people about a question about a resume, you're gonna get 100 answers, you know?
Correct. Yep.
And, with military resumes, something that's highly debatable is military schooling and awards. What's your take on that?
Me personally, I had it on my resume everywhere. I had it just like filled the bottom on it, like got this, I don't think it's some of the things I did in the military, but I did list all